If you type their name in a search engine right now, you will find two very different families. One is a cartoon villain, a shadowy cabal that supposedly owns every other central bank on Earth, starts wars for profit, and controls the weather. This version of the family is everywhere online. It's the ultimate boogeyman of the internet age. It's the answer to every question that you can't answer. Why did the markets crash? Them. Why was there a war? Them. But there is another version, the real one. And the reality? It's actually scarier than the fiction. Because the fiction tells you they are wizards who control everything by magic or secret handshakes. The reality tells you exactly how the modern world was bought and paid for. They didn't use magic. They used a system of private couriers, fast boats at Dover, carrier pigeons at Hythe, and absolute family loyalty that moved information faster than kings could move armies. They didn't just get rich. They invented the international bond market. They turned national debt into a product you could buy and sell. For 100 years, they were the hidden force of Europe. They financed the armies that defeated Napoleon. They bailed out the Bank of England when it was hours away from collapse. They built the railways that industrialized France. They didn't just play the game, they built the stadium. But then, something happened. They didn't disappear. They didn't die out. They just went off stage. Today we are going to walk past the conspiracy theories and open the actual ledger. We're going to look at the specific mechanisms they used to capture public authority with private power. By the end of this video, you will be able to tell the difference between the myth and the mechanic. This isn't just a story about secret societies. It's a story about the invention of modern finance. Welcome to the real house of Rothschild. Welcome back to Hidden Forces in History. I'm your host, Jeremy Ryan Slate, CEO of Command Your Brand. We help our clients to appear on some of the biggest podcasts in the world. Check us out via the link in the description. And now, our story. To understand how they bought the world, you have to understand where they started. It was here, Frankfurt, Germany, the 1760s, the Judengasse, a single curved street, maybe a quarter-mile long, where thousands of Jewish families were legally forced to live. This wasn't just a neighborhood. It was a prison without bars. At night, the gates were locked. On Sundays and Christian holidays, they couldn't leave. If a Jew walked down the street and a Christian shouted, "Mach mores," pay your respects, they had to step into the gutter and bow. Mayer Amschel Rothschild was born into this cage. He dealt in rare coins. He scavenged for metals and antiques to sell to wealthy collectors. But Mayer Amschel realized something early on. Princes and landgraves of Germany didn't just need coins. They needed discretion. They needed a place to hide their money from enemies, and sometimes from their own families. Enter Prince William of Hesse-Kassel, one of the richest men in Europe. Well, how did he get rich? He ran the original military-industrial complex. He rented out his own subjects, the Hessian mercenaries, to fight in foreign wars. Specifically, he rented them to the British to fight the American Revolution. Prince William had mountains of cash, but he needed someone smart to manage it. Someone who wasn't part of the court gossip circles. Someone invisible. Someone whose legal status was so low, they would never betray him because they depended on him for survival. Mayer Amschel became the court Jew, a specific legal status that allowed him to handle the prince's finances. He took the prince's capital and started lending it out. He wasn't using his own money. He was using the prince's leverage to build his own. But Mayer knew something: a single city was a trap. If you stay in Frankfurt, the local laws can crush you. To be safe, he had to be everywhere. You had to be international before the concept of international business even existed. So he made the decision that defined the next 2 centuries. He sent his 5 sons to the 5 capitals of Europe. Amschel stayed in Frankfurt to hold the fort. Solomon went to Vienna to charm the Habsburgs. Karl went to Naples to handle the Vatican and Italian states. James went to Paris to navigate the post-revolutionary chaos. And the genius, Nathan, well, he went to London. By the 1800s, Europe was on fire. Napoleon Bonaparte was redrawing the map. Borders were closing, and currencies were collapsing. For most bankers, war is a disaster. It meant defaulted loans and seized assets. For the Rothschilds, this was the opportunity of a millennium. While Napoleon blockaded ports with his continental system, trying to starve Britain of trade, the Rothschild brothers created a private smuggling network. They didn't just move letters, they moved gold. Imagine the logistics. You have to move millions of pounds in gold coin from London to France, then through enemy lines in France, down to Spain to pay the Duke of Wellington's army. If you get caught, you are executed for treason. James in Paris would dress couriers as women or hide gold in the false bottoms of carriages. They bribed French police captains. They turned the British government's problem into a family business. But their real weapon wasn't the gold itself. It was information. Nathan Rothschild didn't just trust the Royal Mail. He built his own internet. He had agents permanently stationed at Dover and Calais. He had a pigeon farm in Hesse. If a price changed in Paris or a battle was won in Belgium, a pigeon could get the news to Nathan in London in hours, sometimes days, before the British Prime Minister even knew it. And here is where we have to address the Waterloo myth. You've probably heard the story. Nathan Rothschild is at the Battle of Waterloo. He sees Napoleon lose. He races back to London, looks sad, and starts selling British bonds. Everyone thinks Britain lost, so they panic sell. The market crashes. Then Nathan buys everything up for pennies on the dollar. It's a great movie scene. It appeared in the 1940 Nazi propaganda film, but it didn't happen. Nathan wasn't at the battle. While he did get the news first, the market records show he didn't crash the market. But the reality of what he did was actually more impressive. He didn't need to trick the market. He was the market. By the time Napoleon was defeated in 1815, the Rothschilds were no longer just bankers. They were the treasurers of the anti-Bonaparte alliance. They effectively financed the fall of an emperor. And when the dust settled, they were the only ones left standing with cash. Peace is usually bad for war profiteers. Without armies to feed, the profits dry up. But the Rothschilds pivoted. They realized that governments didn't just need money for war. They needed money for debt. Before this era, if the king needed money, he begged a few rich nobles or raised taxes. The Rothschilds industrialized this. They issued sovereign bonds, loans to governments that were sold to investors all over the world. They created a market where you, a wealthy merchant in London, could buy the debt of the Austrian Empire, or Prussia, or Russia. And why wouldn't you trust the Tsar of Russia to pay back his debts? Well, you wouldn't. But you trusted the Rothschilds to make him pay them back. This is the era of their peak power, 1815 to 1860. They didn't rule countries. They decided which countries could afford to fight. If a king wanted to go to war, well, he needed a loan. If the Rothschilds said no, well, the war didn't happen. Let's look at 1825, the first modern financial crisis. Banks were failing left and right. The Bank of England, the central bank of the British Empire, ran out of gold. They were literally hours away from putting up a sign that said, "Closed." Who saved them? Not the government. Nathan Rothschild. He had gold shipping in from France, from Germany, from everywhere in the network. He physically delivered tons of gold coins to the Bank of England to keep the doors open. Think about that. A private family bailing out the central bank of the world's superpower. This is a level of power that Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos can only dream of. It was too big to fail before the term existed. But this power had a vulnerability. It relied on the family staying together. It relied on blood. Nothing lasts forever. By the late 1800s, the world was changing. New competitors appeared. Huge joint stock banks, which were massive public corporations that didn't rely on one family's capital. They had thousands of shareholders. The Rothschilds were rich, but they couldn't compete with the collective capital of the entire middle class. And across the ocean, a new giant was waking up: Wall Street. J.P. Morgan, the Rockefellers, the center of gravity was shifting from London to New York. Then came the 20th century, the century that broke the old world. World War I destroyed the empires the Rothschilds had financed. The Austrian Empire, gone. The Ottoman Empire, gone. The Russian Empire collapsed into Bolshevism, and the Rothschild assets there were seized by the Soviets. And then the darkness truly fell: the rise of the Nazis. We often forget this part of the story because of the all-powerful myth. People ask, if they control the world, why did they let World War II happen? Well, the answer is they didn't control it. They were also the victims of it. In 1938, when Hitler annexed Austria, the first thing the Nazis did was target the Rothschilds. They arrested Louis von Rothschild in Vienna. They threw him in a cell. The SS seized the family's bank. They seized their art, some of the finest in the world. They held Louis hostage for a year. The family had to negotiate a massive ransom, effectively handing over their entire Austrian fortune just to get him out alive. The Austrian branch of the family, once the financiers of emperors, was crushed. In France during the occupation, their property was also seized. The family fled to New York and London. By 1945, the House of Rothschild, as a global hegemon, was dead. Their Frankfurt home was rubble. Their Vienna home was gone. Their influence was a shadow of 1815. But they didn't die. They adapted. After the war, the survivors regrouped. They looked at the modern world, a world of corporate giants, central banks, and strict regulations. And they made a choice. They couldn't be the kings of finance anymore. Their numbers were too big. So they became the advisors. Today, Rothschild and Company is a very successful, mid-sized financial advisory firm. They help giant companies merge. They manage wealth for the super rich. They're influential, certainly. Are they powerful? Yes. Are they the hidden hand, controlling the weather and the Federal Reserve? Likely no. So why does the internet insist that they run the world? Because the human brain hates chaos. We don't want to believe that wars happen because of complex geopolitical fiction. We don't want to believe that economic crashes are systematic flaws in the math. We want a villain. We want a name. We want a room where 5 guys sit around a table and decide the price of bread. The Rothschild conspiracy is a legacy code from the 19th century. It takes the very real trauma of modern capitalism, the feeling that you are being controlled by invisible forces, and puts a 200-year-old face on it. It's a distraction. While everyone is looking for the 19th century ghosts, they're missing the 21st century reality. The real hidden forces today aren't families, they're algorithms. They are asset management firms like BlackRock and Vanguard that manage $10 trillion. Money that makes the Rothschild fortune look like pocket change. The new power isn't about bloodlines. It's about index funds. It's about systems, not people. The Rothschilds were the first. They wrote the playbook. They showed the world how private credit could capture public power. They built the tracks that modern economy runs on. But the train has left the station, and they aren't driving it anymore. They've retreated to their estates, their vineyards, and their advisory boards. They've gone off stage. But the show? Well, the show goes on. This has been Hidden Forces in History. I'm Jeremy Ryan Slate. Be sure to like this video, leave us a comment, and smash that subscribe button if you want more Hidden Forces in History.